All right, let's dive into a thought experiment that is so completely catastrophic, it's hard to even wrap your head around. And look, we're not talking about a gentle slowdown over a few million years. No. We're talking about an instant, planet-shattering full stop.
So let's just ask the big question. What would happen if, in the next 5 seconds, our planet just stopped? What would that even look like? And more to the point, what would it feel like? I'll tell you this much, the answer is both fascinating and absolutely terrifying.
And this right here is the absolute key. This isn't a graceful process. Think about it like a car going 1,000 miles an hour and slamming directly into a brick wall. The planet, the solid ground right under your feet, it stops dead. But everything on the planet, well, that's a completely different story.
And that brings us to the very first, very immediate consequence. Let's call it the Great Ejection. This is the instant, personal result of our planet slamming on the brakes.
It all comes down to something we learn in high school physics, right? Newton's first law of inertia. Basically, an object in motion wants to stay in motion. And right now, you, me, every single thing on Earth is in motion. The planet is the car, and inertia is about to send us all flying through the windshield. So just how fast are we talking about? Well, if you're standing at the equator, the Earth's surface is moving at a blistering 1,000 miles per hour. That's about 1,600 kilometers per hour. That is the incredible speed that we've all inherited from our spinning planet, and it's a speed we are about to reckon with. So here's the bottom line. The planet stops, but you don't. Everything that isn't physically anchored to the Earth's core, people, houses, cars, trees, the entire top layer of soil is instantly launched eastward at supersonic speeds. Everything on the surface suddenly becomes a projectile. Your personal fate would be sealed in a fraction of a second. You'd be launched sideways, traveling faster than a bullet from a gun. And don't think you'd be safe near the poles, where the rotational speed is almost zero. Nope. The sheer force of that sudden stop, the G-force, would just turn your bones to jelly. There's literally no safe place to be.
So every solid object has just been violently swept from the surface. But what about the air itself? The disruption is about to escalate into a truly planetary windstorm.
That's right. The atmosphere, all 7 quintillion tons of it, it has inertia too. It was moving at 1,000 miles per hour right along with the ground, and it has absolutely no reason to stop. To put this into perspective, we think of a Category 5 hurricane as, the ultimate destructive force. That's about 157 miles per hour. The wind we are talking about here is more than 6 times faster. It's not even in the same league. It's an entirely different kind of disaster.
The difference is stark. A hurricane is a storm. This would be a solid wall of air moving at the speed of sound, scouring the surface of the Earth clean of anything that might have survived that first moment.
The force would be so incredible, so instantaneous, that even the world's mightiest skyscrapers wouldn't have time to topple over. They would simply snap off at their foundations and join the rest of the planet's debris in its supersonic flight around the globe.
So, the land has been scoured clean by what is basically an atmospheric grinder. But we are not done. The single biggest force on the planet's surface has yet to be unleashed: the oceans.
Here's a cool piece of geophysics we rarely think about. The Earth isn't a perfect sphere. Its constant rotation creates a force that causes it to bulge out at the equator. This shape is called an oblate spheroid, and that massive equatorial bulge is made almost entirely of ocean water.
So what happens when the planet stops spinning? Well, that force holding the bulge in place vanishes instantly. That massive bulge of ocean water around the equator collapses, triggering 2 unimaginable mega tsunamis. The oceans themselves begin to migrate, rushing towards the pole to find a new balance. Continents like Northern Europe, Russia, and Canada would be permanently submerged under miles of water. It's pretty much impossible to imagine anyone surviving this. But for the sake of our thought experiment, let's just say you did. You've been ejected, scoured by wind, and somehow dodged a global tsunami. You now face your final and perhaps most absurd challenge: human bureaucracy. So let's say you were launched from New York City and somehow landed in Portugal. You would have technically made an unauthorized international flight. You'd be an illegal projectile, violating the Chicago Convention on Sovereign Airspace.
So after surviving the literal end of the world and being flung across the Atlantic at supersonic speeds, you'd have some serious questions to answer at customs, assuming, there's a customs desk left standing. So, yeah, you'll probably need your passport.
It's a ridiculous end to a catastrophic event, but it really makes you think. Our entire world, our stability, our very existence, is balanced on this invisible, unfelt motion. The quiet spinning of our planet is the only thing standing between civilization and total instantaneous chaos. It's a fundamental force we never feel, but it's one that dictates everything.